So surely you have heard of what many call the Great Resignation or the Big Quit. Maybe you've been a part of it. Large numbers of people are changing jobs, quitting, retiring during the past 2 years in the pandemic. Even without the pandemic, we might ask, what in the world am I supposed to do with my life? Why is finding a job so hard? These questions could destroy a young adult's mental health. And then, of course, we know we'll hit a midlife crisis at some point and question all our decisions anyway. Luckily for you, we're back with Unfolding Wings, your favorite podcast for exploring how to live well and faithfully as a young adult amidst the pressures and problems of life. With me, your host, the Holy Pastor, are my, I was going to say are my cool cat friends, but one of them ditched us again. And so we still have just one friend from Charlton City UMC in Charlton, Mass. Kayla, say hi.
Hello.
And Kayla has shown her dedication. She is with us via phone while she travels and helps her brother out. So you get holiness points for sure. And quick disclaimer for everyone else. We, of course, seek to give voice and meaning to the questions and issues in young adults' lives, but this and all other episodes don't necessarily reflect my personal views or the church's views. Sometimes I say some pretty crazy stuff as the pastor, as the holy pastor. All right, so today, Kayla, you and I, let's try and help unfold wings some more by talking about how to find a good, fulfilling job. Maybe some other episode, if we're still going and people are listening. By the way, everyone listening, quick, tell your friends about this podcast and reach out to us if you ever have a question or topic you'd like us to address. Or maybe some other episode we'll tackle how to manage the workplace itself, but let's do baby steps first, how to get the job of one's dreams. Now, this is really hard for me to understand, obviously, because I've always known since birth that God had special plans for me. And Mary, mother of Jesus, was like 12 or 14 years old when she discovered she'd be the mother of God. And the prophet Samuel was maybe 8 years old when he heard the voice of God. So you guys have to help me understand, first of all, why is it that many kids go off to college or in their mid-20s and they're still asking themselves what they want to do with their lives? What's up with that?
Well, I guess we're just not holy enough.
Yeah, I guess so.
But no, honestly, I mean, I think it's hard to try and find the job that you really want, or even figure out what you really want to do with your life. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm turning 30 next year, and I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Do I enjoy the job I'm doing right now? Yeah, no. I mean, like, it pays the bills. I'm not miserable, so that's going for me.
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about the paying the bills thing and um, whether or not that's the purpose of having a job. I mean, is it really is that really the best we can hope for? Is a job that can pay the bills and not make us miserable, or is there something more that we could have in our work life?
I don't think that a career choice necessarily needs to be your purpose in life. I do sometimes think for some people that your career can be just your means of living, and the things that you do outside of work can be what your life purpose is. So I mean, you can have a job that pays the bills, and then outside of your job you can pursue things that you really want to do that maybe are not gonna be sustainable enough for you to live off of. I mean, that's how I'm looking at it right now, because as much as I'm okay with my job and stuff, the things that I pursue outside of my job, especially like the volunteer work that I do, that's the stuff that I feel fulfills my life more than my job necessarily does.
So what you're saying is that perhaps the reason why you are still questioning what you're doing with your life isn't because you want to figure out what job you should be doing, but you're trying to figure out what God really wants you to do aside from your job?
Yeah, I mean, if yes, yes, and I mean, yeah. I guess you could say it like that. If I could have a job where it would not only pay, feel fulfilling, that would also be awesome. But if it were to continue like this and it was just stuff outside of my job, that would be okay too.
That would be okay. Yeah. And I guess part of this is what we call vocation. I don't know, it comes from Latin or Greek or something. It has some ancient language root. Uh, a vocation is not just occupation, but it is something that we are specifically called to or gifted for. And as you say, the ideal vocation is something that we can spend every moment of our lives doing, but not all of us are going to be that lucky in practical reality. And so some of us need to have a vocation and a separate occupation to help us keep going with the vocation. Um, but so just to help us be led and guided, what would you say right now your vocation is? What do you think God is calling you to do?
I love helping people. So anything in any situation where I can just help somebody or just make someone feel good, or make their day, like that's something for myself personally that I'm just like, those are the things that I and that make life worth living is when you see the good that you're putting out there.
And you're not doing that in your current work job?
Tries to remind me that that's what we are doing since I work in the mortgage department. So I mean, like we're helping people get home, you know. So it's like he's like, I know, I work on the operational side of having like this face-to-face contact with these customers and seeing the excitement or the stress that they're going through.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, did we lose you for a second there, Kayla? Oh boy. We are running into technological issues here on Unfolding Wings, the podcast. It is raining as we record as well, which makes it so much easier for uh, Kayla's connectivity. Are you there now?
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were hearing about you have to remind yourself that in the mortgage world, you are helping people, but it's sometimes not exactly the easiest thing to do to remind yourself of.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because my boss has to constantly remind us. He's like, even though you're not seeing these bars and talking to them and all that stuff, like you have to remember that we're helping these people. Like these people are genuinely excited because they're buying a house or whatever it is. And since we're so disconnected from that, I forget that I am helping people within my job, but it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, I get that. I can think about standing all day in a retail store, like a bookstore or something, and one could say that I would be helping people buy the books that will bring them joy, but all I would think about is standing all day. So it'd be hard to remember that sometimes, even though our work is not exactly what we want it to be, it probably has some connection to what brings us joy and fulfillment in life, and that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, if Diego showed up today, he could probably tell us about how he's pursuing, being a pediatrician, which is awesome. So he's finding a job where he's helping people and it's also going to be paying his bills. So that's nice.
Yeah, it better pay his bills because he's gonna have a ton of them when he finishes medical school. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
let me be honest with you though. I think young adults seem lazy, especially from my perspective as a pastor. I mean, you should just work hard every moment of your life, right? And that's what we Christians expect of you. So why is it that young adults are changing jobs so rapidly? I don't get it. A few months ago, some awesome pastor that I highly respect, I forget his name, but I think he's the pastor of Charlton City UMC. But he
Yeah.
included he included in a sermon some data that says something like 7 job changes by the age of 30 is the average in our country. It seems to me like y'all young adults just can't be happy. And the second you get a little frustrated, it's not good enough and you have to switch jobs. But there's a little something called the Protestant work ethic. So you should just pick something, work hard, God will be happy. Can I get in on
Okay, can you
then
hear me?
from that?
Yeah, so
Oh boy.
all right, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I think we're having tech issues because we forgot to pray before we started recording. And God is saying, hey, don't forget to pray. But yeah, go for it.
I think so. Our generation is obviously different than the generation before us. I think that we're more confident in putting our foot down and knowing our worth and knowing that we don't have to stick it through if we're not happy. So I think that's why so many people are just leaving their jobs and pursuing either a better paycheck or just being happier somewhere else. So I think that that's what makes us different, and that's why we're having this great resignation happening right now. And there's other places that are going to pay you what you believe to be your worth and in your worth.
But isn't your worth like your net worth? So your worth as a person is how much money you have in the bank. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're looking at the cost of living. The cost of living is going up, especially right now. So a lot of people are quitting because other places are realizing, like, we need to pay these people more. And now that I feel like in some companies, a lot of companies are messing up because you're losing people when you can just be paying the people you already have more. And instead of doing that, you're waiting for them to leave to get paid better somewhere else. Then you're hiring new people more with and paying them more money than the person that you just had. So I mean, like, it's just going to be like this cycle until either the cost of living goes down or we have some crazy crash in the economy. I mean, a lot of things are happening right now, and I mean, trust me, I would love to get paid more, and I tell my boss all the time, I don't want to be overpaid. I want to be paid fairly.
That's a great point. And as you said earlier, putting your foot down. Even even Abraham did that with God at one point. God was gonna just smite Sodom and Gomorrah, and without even thinking about it. And he did eventually, but Abraham said at one point, hey, what if there are righteous people there? And God said, fine, fine. If there are 100 righteous people, I won't kill them. And Abraham said, well, what about if there were 10? And what about there was only one? And even he put his foot down with God. So we should certainly put our foot down with our work bosses, for goodness sake. And I sometimes think even my own holy pastor conservative Christian logic is a little bit haywire. We say you should just work hard like I did and you'll succeed financially, but then we also say don't worry about money because it's the root of evil. And then we also say give more to the church, for goodness sakes. You don't give enough to the church, but then I don't want to let you earn more money. So it's all kind of weird how conservative Christians think sometimes. And we need to figure out whether or not we want people to give more to the church, or, or if we want to keep them poor forever. It's one or the other, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this endless cycle, right? Because I feel like it's always going to be like that. There's always need. And I feel like it's okay to have money, right? We have to have a living. We have to be able to support ourselves in order to help other people as well. It doesn't just have to be for our own gain. It could just be to help other people. I would love to be able to help more. If I had more money, that would be great because I would definitely be able to give more money as well. Of course, not everybody thinks that way, but like in the end, I'm only in charge of my life, right? I'm the one who has to come to God at the end of the day, and He's the one who's going to judge just me based on me, not me based on somebody else. So I'm in charge of my own life, my own salvation. Uh, I want to do what I think is best, and more money would be great. Trust me, I would really love that because I would love to help more and also live a little bit more comfortably. Maybe have more room for my cat. That would be cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. The cats need rooms. I've also thought about getting a hamster and having just a room for the hamster, rather than sticking them in a cage, just have a whole room for the hamster, and just the whole room is covered in, what are those things that you're supposed to put in their cage, so that they can run on, like the
Oh,
wood
the wheel.
chips or something.
Yeah, the red. Oh, oh,
Yeah. Well, the
oh.
wheel, yeah, but
Yeah,
also that soft stuff. Uh,
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would need more money for that room, and because you don't want to be mean and stick animals in cages. Also, if you have kids, of course, and that's the thing. My wife just this morning um, was like, "Hey, I'm really starting to understand those couples that don't want to bring kids into this world, because trying to figure out how we're going to pay for stuff when we are seeing the inflation that we are and all the other crazy stuff. It's nuts."
Yeah, I totally agree. I just, you know, I don't want to like bring up negative stuff on the podcast about jobs, but like speaking of money, I have some friends that had kids, and they're like, was it selfish of me to bring a child into this world when the way it's looking, we're not going to afford it the way that people are. Maybe they'll be shot in school. Like I'm just like, me and my husband, we don't want to have kids of our own. We would love to adopt if the opportunity came up and we had the money for it, which is crazy that I want to take a child from that's being held by the government. Like, please give them to me. Why do I have to give you my life savings to help a child? Like I'm trying to help. If you could help me out and not charge me an arm and a leg, to take care of a child and offer it a better life. But it's we get into talking about capitalism, but I think we should save that for another day because that conversation is probably going forever.
Yeah, let's save the capitalism conversation for another day. Absolutely, but that is a good question that some of your friends are asking. Were we selfish to bring kids into this world? And we are recording this just the week after or less than a week after the Robb Elementary School shooting in Texas. And I'll admit, I've thought about that too. Of you know because we work, we need to send our kids to school. We can't homeschool. Like, we don't really have that choice. And so we're sending them out into what feels like danger all of the time. And um, the more kids you have, the more you have to work. and uh, and then you see them less. So it is pretty selfish if viewed from a certain perspective. And um, it sucks because it's not what having kids should be about. And and
Yeah,
yeah.
I no, I totally agree. I mean, like I feel like I don't have kids, so only you can answer this in this podcast. But like I, I'm assuming the holy pastor feels fulfilled in his career path and his what would you
the,
call it, your vocation?
the holy pastor definitely feels fulfilled in vocation, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, like, does that help when you, I guess, see that it's also providing for you and your children?
Yeah, I suppose so, that it helps. But what would help even more in some ways, if uh, I could somehow bring my kids into the vocation. So, the fact that I work at a church and the kids can come with me to church, and it's, that is nice. But even if I were feeling fulfilled in my vocation and I weren't able to be with my kids during it, I think it would be hard to. I know some
Yeah,
clergy who don't see their kids except for dinner time.
yeah. I mean, like, I remember growing up, my dad was working like three jobs in order to provide, and it was just me at the time. I think my brother, either my mom was still pregnant with my brother, or he had just been, you know, fresh out the womb. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot. My parents were both working, and they were raising children. And I think if it wasn't for like my aunt and my uncle and like other family friends to help, I don't know if they would have been able to sustain our life the way that we were living, even though they were both, in the same vocation as you. It just wasn't sustainable. So my dad was working like two extra jobs, but he was also loving the work that he was doing because he loves being a pastor. You can definitely tell that that's my dad's calling. So he was working because he loved to work with people, loved his calling from God, but he also loved his children. So I mean, like, but if you look at it, and it's kind of unfair, right? Because we should be able to face our career goals, our vocations, and also be able to provide and not have to. What's that saying? It's either work to live or live to work. I forget which is which, but like one's definitely better than the other.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Typically, I think we hear that I work to live, which, and no,
Yes, I think that's right.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, um, but you're you're right, and I think this brings us to Adam and Eve. It really all comes back to those two little devils. I hate Adam and Eve. I really do. First they eat the fruit and they lose paradise for the rest of us. But then John Milton tells us in his book Paradise Lost that God gives Adam a look ahead at all the great things that God's going to do to restore humanity to paradise. But Adam didn't do anything to deserve that gift. Why doesn't God give me the gift of seeing how salvation is going to play out? I don't get it. I really hate Adam and Eve. Anyway, um, so at the beginning of things, God creates humankind to live in paradise. Life is easy, all is swell. And it's only after they disobey that God condemns Adam to toil in the soil. And clearly, this means that women aren't supposed to work in the first place. They're just supposed to stay home and raise the kids or be happy with 89 cents to the dollar for the same work as men. And 6 weeks of maternity leave if they're lucky. But it also raises a question, I think. Uh, you don't need to comment on any of that because I know I'm right about it. But
Cool.
here's the question. Um, what did God create us for? Are we supposed to spend our lives working hard or something else? And it certainly seems to me that the hard work that we are needing to do is not what was intended by God in the first place, that we are supposed to live and only work insofar to make sure that we're living and living well.
Uh, yeah. I mean, like, I don't think we were meant to work this hard, and I also think that you're touching a little bit on free will, but no, I don't think that this was our intended purpose is to work ourselves into the ground like this, just to live, just to survive. I think that we were just meant to enjoy life and creation around us and to love each other. And I have a few bones to pick with Adam and Eve too. Trust me, I already know I'm gonna fight Eve if I ever meet her. So um, they really screwed us over.
Yes, it'll be like the superhero battles. Who would win in a fight between Batman and Superman. I want to know who would win in a fight between Eve and Kayla. Um, but it gets back to your point about your dad, of how he was working really hard, but it was more okay anyway because he really loved the work that he was doing. And I think that that's perhaps the point about work, is to try as much as possible to love the work that we're doing, or if we don't love it, don't let it make us miserable, because it's not the point of our lives.
I,
It's just to work hard.
I agree. Like the whole situation where, like for me personally, where I'm working and it pays my bills, and then outside of work I pursue the things that I really feel fulfilled in. If my job was making me absolutely miserable, I would leave. You know, I'm not saying that if you're miserable, and you're just trying to pay your bills, and then outside of that you're pursuing your dreams or whatever it is. Um, if you're miserable at work, I still don't think you should stay there. I still think that we're meant to live a mostly happy, joyful life. So, you know, for anybody listening, don't let people tell you that you're just meant to be miserable and you gotta work through it because it pays your bills. If you have the opportunity to leave and to be happier, then take it.
Yeah, and I think there's another element here of just attitude. If we don't have the opportunity to go to a job that we could be happier in, to perhaps just kind of do the work, but not be focused on it and not be mentally involved in it, to self-differentiate ourselves, so that we're not getting drained by it. And
Yeah.
I know so often I used to work, and then on my day off I would just rest so that I could work the next week. But that's backwards. It really should be, you work so that you can get to your days off. And that type of attitude switch can help us as well with our jobs, especially our jobs that we're not totally happy with. That it's, you don't rest on the weekend so that you can keep working. It's, you work so that you can do fun things on the weekend or whenever your days off are.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think like the best advice that you can give somebody who's, you know, stressed about their work is don't take your work home with you. I mean, it's really it's hard now to physically to do that when a lot of us are working like hybrid jobs and we're working from home or you know whatever it is. But like once you clock out, like clock out mentally. And I feel like once I was able to like be able to mentally do that, where I'm just like, okay, you know what, 5 o'clock, I'm done. I'm not thinking about my job. I'll think about it tomorrow when I clock into the office. You know, like I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my night. I'm not gonna let whatever happened at work that day ruin the rest of my day. You know,
Do you find that easy to do?
no, that took me like at least 3 years to like actually be able to be like, you know what, y'all don't pay me enough to take this home with me, so I'm clocking out. Don't call me. Don't text me. And you know, I feel like especially like service jobs where you're working like restaurant jobs, especially they feel like they can call you on your time off and be like, I need you to come in. I'd be like, I'm not even gonna answer the phone because I'm not getting paid right now. So I feel like once you just know your worth, that's definitely key there. Knowing your worth, knowing that your time is valuable, and you shouldn't let people rob you of that. Then it's easier to be like, okay, I'm clocked out. Don't call me. I'm not gonna pick up the phone. I'm putting it on do not disturb. Don't even. You know, I'll get it. I'll get to it in the morning. So it definitely takes work. It definitely takes a lot of work to get to that point, but I mean, it can be done. I was having really bad panic attacks to the work before, and then once I conquered that part of myself mentally, it's definitely helped me a lot in the long run.
I like that part about not answering the phone on time off. You know what our bishop does is he calls using an untraceable number, so it just comes up as unknown number on their phone. And my clergy friends and I have a joke of, you know what, if you're going to call using an unknown number, We ain't answering the phone. Sorry, you don't pay us enough to wonder about whether or not it's you, Mr. Bishop. So
That's
there's a tip
true.
as well. Um, so let's go back to the young adults don't seem to know what they're doing with their lives, and you don't know what you're doing with your life. And yet we go to college often, if we do go to college, um,
Mhm.
and we're supposed to know what we want to do so that we can study the appropriate major, even applying for college at the end of high school, whether or not we're going to apply to college and which college we apply to. It seems like earlier and earlier in life, people are asking us to know exactly what we want to do so that we can apply to the right school, the right program. Um, so is it making you feel like a terrible person that you're turning 30 next year and that's like half your work life is over already? It feels like it, I'm sure anyway. And you still don't know what you're doing when you should have known 12 years ago?
Um, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like some days it really doesn't feel good, but then other days I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of people that are in their 40s, 50s that are going back to school, and I also remind myself like our brains aren't even fully developed to like what, like 26 or 25 or something crazy like that. So I'm like, why are we forced to make these huge life decisions younger than that when we're literally not done forming? So I think like I try to remember that. That's like a really scientific way to think of it. But like realistically, we're making these huge decisions that are going to affect us for the rest of our lives, or put us in a lot of debt. And I just think that's really unfair. And I remember when I learned a lot of people take a gap year after high school. I'm not saying that that's enough time, but I'm saying like I think that's also really, like a really cool thing to do is take some time off. Like you just had a huge accomplishment in your life getting through high school. You're going through a huge next part of your life, next step in your life. I think it's good to like take time off and enjoy it, because then once you go into that next part of your life and you have to make those huge decisions. That's such a hard word. Oh my god. You have to make those huge choices. um, it's it's just like nonstop from there. Like time just flies after that, because I feel like once you make a commitment and you're in it, where did the time go? Like where did the last 10 years of my life go? Like I'm working all the time, and then I'm not working, and then I'm making plans to see family or friends, and it's just like next thing you know, a couple months have gone by, and I'm like, oh my god, I did so much. Where did the time go? Your life is just like flashing before your eyes. So, and like, as weird as it is, that I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna be 30 next year. At the same time, I'm like, wow, I'm gonna be 30 next year. Like, that was fast.
It's probably the Matrix. That's why time goes by so fast. That's my explanation for it anyway. Um, yeah, in the gap year thing, oftentimes people will not just take a year off, but they'll do something with that time. They'll travel all over the world or go to work with the Peace Corps for a little while. Um, I I think if you do that in your gap year, that's a really great idea if you have the chance. And I think for me, my parents let me take a gap year after I graduated from seminary. Actually, I think it was a gap 2 years, really, where they let me live at home and I got to travel and I got to do things with my life and write a lot and to realize that's not really what my life is is for. And then I wouldn't enjoy it. But that can help you, as you said, doing all of these nice things, hopefully nice things. If you have the opportunity, it can really help you make the decisions later on rather than rushing into making.
Yeah, exactly like that's. I think like we need to normalize that so that people don't feel like they're, like, oh my god, I have to go to college, or I have to join the military, I have to do something. Like, it's okay to explore and try to figure out what it is. I'm like currently in therapy, and I know that like my therapist always talks about self differentiation and like figuring out who it is that you want to be, everybody else in your life wants you to be. So like making that, I guess, um, discovery about yourself, about who is it that I want to be? Is it, am I the person that I want to be, or am I the person that my parents or my family or my loved ones have like formed and grown, like formed me into this person. Am I really this person? Is this really my beliefs? Or what is it that I believe? What is it that I want to do? Who am I? So
That's a great question. It's nurture versus nature. And I think as the holy pastor, I should bring in, who has God made you to be as well, right? That it's
mm-hmm.
more fulfilling to be the person God has made you to be, if you choose it anyway, than it is to be the person that your parents created you to be and shaped you to be. Because as awesome as our parents are, and their uh, very loving efforts to raise us well, they are human after all, and it's not necessarily about what they want, but what has God given us to do
Mm-hmm.
and to be, because that's probably good. God probably wants us to be something that's really good for us. So if we can figure that out, then that's probably going to be our best life. And I
Yeah,
guess
I
part of
agree.
yeah. So one of my questions, I guess, is how do we make sure that prayer and God are part of this? Or is it just like whatever opportunities are in front of me, I'm not going to even think about whether or not they're from God. I'm just going to do them. How do we make sure that God is part of our decisions when it comes to our work?
Well, I definitely think that you need to make the time to pray and to listen. Right? There's prayer, and then like like, oh God, please like help me figure out what is it that you want me to do? What is it that I'm meant to do? Right? And then there's actually listening to when he's actually answering your prayers in whatever way it is, because I know that it doesn't always necessarily end up being the answer that you might have wanted, but then I think that once you get out of your comfort zone, once you really like take that leap of faith, if you will, and you can explore the person that you're meant to be. I mean, it takes time and it takes patience. So I think that patience is something that I'm currently working through right now, and I know that God is very gracious. And I mean, we have time. I'm still young. You're still young, even though you're the holy pastor. I think that patience, prayer, and listening is what's also key.
Yeah, the Israelites had to wait a few hundred years to know what God was asking them to do on multiple occasions. So yeah, I think 30 years in comparison is probably not a long time. Something like 1/10 of the time that the Israelites had to wait to figure it out. But on the score, one thing I hate are the cliches statements that we often learn growing up. And the one that comes to mind related to this conversation is that if a door closes, God will always open another door, or a window, doors or windows, I forget which, but I don't know. I don't know necessarily that that's helpful, because as you say, sometimes you'll need to be patient, and it's not necessarily the case that immediately there's going to be something else for us. But
Yeah, like I I agree. I'm not a really big fan of that saying. I'm also not really a big fan of like everything happens for a reason. Kind of, I'm not like I don't. That saying also bothers me, but like I don't think that life necessarily. Oh, like one door closes, another one opens. I don't think that life is always going to be that easy, or like, did it really close? Did you check it? Like, did you try opening it? Maybe there's a key. I don't always I don't always think that life is going to be as easy as one might. Some people are just given things so easily, and then other people are not, and that's just the way that life might work out sometimes, and that's okay. I think that we're strong people. I think that we need to learn to believe in ourselves and know that we're going to make it through. We've made it this far in life. Why give up now?
that is that could be a rallying cry for young adults finding jobs. Yeah. We've made it this far. Why give up now?
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not dead yet.
yeah.
Like I can still keep going.
Um, Yeah, absolutely. There's a great song, and again, I don't know about our licensing rights or anything, but who is it by? Ledger, called "I'm Not Dead Yet," or something like that. Great one that applies here. Um, because also this is the week of that Robb Elementary School shooting, I would like to at least mention that um, I've been listening a lot to POD's, seems like a classic now, Youth of a Nation. Do you remember that song?
No, I don't think so.
I was hoping, because I know you of all the people that I know, you know more of the kind of the hard rock Christian music than anybody else does. But um, POD, Youth of a Nation, it's all about how the youth of our nation have had to grow up dealing with shootings in their schools all around them
Mm,
all of the time. And it's not necessarily related to jobs, but it's kind of related to everything that young adults are facing nowadays. The feeling that people don't care about them and they're just left on their own to fend for themselves. And so, what you said about we've made it this far, why give up now, is, I think, actually really true. There's just to get to a working life, adult working life, takes a lot, and I I wish that the elder generations would give young adults a little bit more credit when we're talking about work ethic, because they had a ton of work ethic just to make it through school. Um, and that's my soapbox for today. But as we near the end of our time, any other fantastic wisdom that you would like to share?
um, yeah, I mean, like, I'll just like kind of say again, like, your time is valuable for anybody listening, and it's okay to ask for the money that you think you deserve and that you are deserving of. You know, we're working our butts off, especially in this economy. It's okay to ask for more. And it's okay to pursue better things for your life and for your happiness. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kayla, so much as always. And I can certainly
Thank you.
add to that as a final note that we are people of worth because we are children of God. And so maybe our churches and communities of love and compassion should advocate for policies that make this country's wealth work for everyone and provide opportunities of communal mutual support, and that will help individuals find jobs that allow them to enjoy life and meaning a little bit more. Not that I want to be a career counselor or anything. I'm a holy pastor. I'm not supposed to care about secular matters, but I do know that God created us to live a joyful life. So, all right, that's it for today. We invite you to tell your friends about this podcast and continue to find all the episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to catch our previous ones as well. Stay safe. We were supposed to have a special guest today to talk to us about music, but he came down with Lyme disease. Those ticks are out. COVID is still a thing, so be safe out there, protect one another and yourself. And in the meantime, again, we air monthly. Until next time, keep it holy and unfold your wings.